I have to call in sick before 6 in the morning. Alright then. My job starts at around 1400 usually, that means I wake up about 9 in the morning. A few weeks back I woke up at 9 feeling sick and dizzy and throwing up. Went to bed fine the day before. Called work at around 10 and said I couldn't get in. Manager immediately is like, our policy is to call in sick before 6 so you won't get your hours. My manager arrives at the building at around 10 so it would have been impossible to call before 6. Anyways, we also have to call daily to let them know if we are going to come in if we are sick. Next morning at about 5 I wake up and call. No answer. Noon's there yet. Decide to call manager directly. She answers groggily and is like, what? Me. Yeah, wanted to let you know I am still sick. Her. Couldn't you have done that last night? Me. Yeah, but I could have been better this morning. Next day and do the same, and the day after too. She then sends me an email explaining how the rules been changed and 10 is now acceptable. Amazing how shit changes. I worked under a rule like this. I had to call my manager's phone 3 hours before my shift, at 7 a.m. They changed that rule quickly. Had the new boss say this when he first came to the shop. We reminded him that first shift starts at 5 a.m. and we would be calling out before the start of our shift, and he said that's the way he wanted it. Okay, no problem dude. It lasted 2 weeks because our plan worked. We did a rotation of calling out sick, which was 3-4 times each of those 2 weeks, calling him at 4 a.m. or earlier. He complained accidentally after the second call out, so we knew it was working, but we were surprised he lasted the full 2 weeks. He wound up being a really good boss after a few months. If you make a stupid rule, you deserve to get beat over the head with it and have it used against you until you change it. Good job, op. Just because calling in before 10 is now acceptable, it doesn't mean that calling in before 6 is unacceptable, seeing how it is still before 10. Gotta love rules like these. I work night shifts at a hospital from 10 o'clock 5:30 and I have to call in sick between 6 o'clock and 6:15 at the latest. So if I don't find out whether I'm sick or not in that 45-minute time frame after my shift ends, I'm expected at work the following night whether I'm sick or not. Very sanitary and healthy when you work at a hospital, especially during these times. Managers are great at changing inconvenient policies, when it inconveniences them. My current workplace is trying to, for the third time, make composite steel toe shoes mandatory for our job. They are compensating us for the shoes, but only from a specific website. The general consensus from all the workers are that they are highly uncomfortable and heavy, which sucks when you're on your feet for 10+ hours a day. When I was hired, they even told us to get comfortable shoes, and safety shoes were unnecessary. Well, guess how quickly the mandatory got switched to preferred once all the managers had to also wear them. Both times didn't even last 2 weeks, and I don't see it being any different when the policy goes into place next week. Huzzah. What a dumb rule. Manager immediately is like, our policy is to call in sick before 6. Why would they even have such a policy in the first place if there's nobody in before 6 to call in to? Glad that issue got sorted for you. Where I am, we have to come to work, collect a form from HR, get the company stamp, take that to the clinic or hospital and get a stamp from the doc approving sick leave, then submit that form back to HR on the next working day. If this is not done, your pay gets docked. It's not just my company though, it's every private company in the country. I hope you got all your hours. If there's no way to leave a voicemail at the store, you did the only thing left available. Hours is an hour before or after your shift starts, and I imagine it's because of something like that. Granted, when I was in the hospital I gave my boss several days of notice once I could, so I didn't have to text in every day. Someone had to learn the hard way. Anti-work. This is a management default method used to make employees feel lesser. If you aren't towing the "give everything until you die" line, you'll be criticized or punished. Good on you for prioritizing your co-workers and the public's health over her lack of morals, her ethical laziness and general ineptitude. The op should keep calling at 5 in the morning till they get their hours back for the day they lost. Had this policy at a place I worked. Was a great place and my boss was awesome. Management just sucked. Got yelled at by hour for calling in at 3:30 a.m., about 10 minutes after my boss would have arrived and unlocked the doors because shift started at 4 a.m. So I started calling my boss directly at 2 a.m. and waking him up to let him know. My boss was cool with this actually. What we didn't see was the quiet rage he directed at hour. After the first week we all had HR's personal number. She didn't have to be in until 8 a.m. So the 3 or 4 of us that were sick called her at 2 a.m. This sadly lasted only 2 days before the policy was changed. Did you get your hours though? I'm so sorry you have to work for idiots like this. We're supposed to call in at least 2 hours before scheduled to start, which is actually reasonable. Management has a chance to call someone in to cover. My usual shift starts at 4:30 a.m. Good luck getting anyone to answer the phone at 2:29 a.m. No, no, no. You're not supposed to follow the new stupid rule. You're supposed to be frustrated, give up and get back to fucking work, slave. Could also do it this way. Want me to call the night before? Sure. If I get better by next morning, I'll just enjoy my day off. I used to work somewhere where I started at 6:30 and I woke up with the stomach flu and called in around 6 and my boss gave me shit because apparently we were supposed to give 2 hours notice in order to find a replacement. Yeah, sure, let's start calling people at 4 in the morning and see how that goes. Excellent. I usually take the I'll show up and just puke on as much stuff as publicly as I can while making it known to the public why I am in that situation. Meanwhile in Germany any of such rules would be null and void. When you are ill, you are ill. And company cannot opt to not pay you if a doctor writes you in a test. Any working court will give you the missing wage, and the company a hefty fine on top. You have to call before 6 a.m. And if you have a car accident at 7 o'clock. Or when no one is in the office. You jest. This is amazing. What did she say the second and third time you called? Read the end of the first paragraph and was like, well, that's illegal. Forgot that some countries don't protect employees the way we do. Lol. Well done, Jackie Sparrow. I like you. Amazing how fast the rules change when those who make the rules are inconvenienced. One of the ways to change bullshit rules is to enforce them strictly. Antiwork would love this grin. We can just email because. Yeah. By law we have to call in sick as soon as we know that coming to work is not possible. That means if I wake up sick 20 minutes before work, then that's when they get to know. Germany though. Who are all these managers giving out their private numbers? I'm 57 and worked most of my adult life. I've never known a personal number from work. The stupid fucking rule can only change if it happens to be inconvenient for the boss. We have to submit a sick day on our schedule app at least 12 hours prior, then find someone ourselves to cover it, then management still has to approve it. Problem is that nobody has their numbers listed in the app, so it's impossible to get a hold of anyone outside of the app, which people only use to check their work times. Was forced to come in while sick on NI and get shit on all night long, while running at less than half my normal capacity due to my head feeling like it was ready to explode. As a leader, always tried to think about how policy will blow back on me. In the old days before I had a phone, yes, before I had a landline even, I had to go to a phone booth to make the calls. I had to call in sick one day, and mustered the courage to do this one morning around 10, crawl out of bed, put on some clothes, find some quarters, drag myself towards the phone booth 3 blocks over. I got a strong reaction from the manager over calling in late, so I requested him to install a landline at my place, couldn't afford it. He of course didn't, but now understood I was making an effort. Had something similar. Was told 0 remote, work from home, WFH. Because company policy yada yada. Then it snowed, and everything was closed. Guess who got to WFH? Would have preferred a snow day, but oh well. It was either designed that way so that it would make following the rules difficult, therefore forcing you to work, or whoever made the rules didn't use their brain. Also, a set amount of sick days never made sense to me. If you're too sick to work, then you can't work. It's that simple. Literally no one can control that, lol. Crazy how all of a sudden then can change the rule because it's inconvenient for them. Where I work, opening shifts for staff and management start both at 10 a.m. Management is routinely 30 minutes late for their shifts, so when calling in sick it is 30 minutes past your start time. What did she expect? I don't get this at all. I had a job once where the policy was if you were sick and unable to work, they wanted you to call at least 4 hours before your shift started so they could find someone to cover your shift. Weekdays, that's fine, I works 2p 11p, so I was usually up before 10 anyway. But weekend shifts started at 6:30 a.m. I woke up one Sunday with the flu, went to bed Saturday night feeling fine, woke up at 5:30 feeling horrible. I called my supervisor immediately, and her first response was, "You know you're supposed to give 4 hours notice." Yeah, I got scolded, for lack of a better term, at 5:30 a.m. for waking up sick and not informing her earlier. Deadass when I call off it's 10 minutes before because before that I've been doing everything I can just to feel not sick anymore. Lol, that's ridiculous. My old job required our staff to call in at least 2 hours before your shift, but if it was in the morning the earliest you could call was acceptable. We let people message in because it was easier. Cheeky smiley face. That's what she gets for being a bitch. Typical work environment. Asinine rules that don't get changed until it affects management. One of my employers had an 8-hour rule. If you called in less than 8 hours before the start of your shift, they would also ask if you found anyone to cover your shift. If no, you'd be told to call back after you tried to find someone to work. I'd tell them I don't know anyone's number to call and I won't be in. If you were doing a shift swap and the person working your shift calls out, then you were responsible for either working it or finding someone to work it. This happened to me and I basically laughed and told him it wasn't my problem. I had already worked his shift, I was 150 miles away, and I needed to get back to the family event I was attending.